Okay, here we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the fourth episode of our live stream series titled You Ask, We Answer. Today, my name is Hung Chris. Today with me is Dr. Thanh Do with a very impressive track record. He graduated summa cum laude from the University of the Pacific and is now concurrently a senior engineer at Thornton Tomasetti, alongside with being a lecturer and a postdoc researcher at the University of California, Berkeley. So to begin with, I would like to first ask, would you prefer to be referred to with your full name, Dr. Thanh Do, or just Thanh is fine?
Just my first name is fine. So thank you so much for the kind introduction, and thank you so much for having me today. It's my honor.
We have to thank you for coming on. So I guess let's get started right away. You are currently working you have three roles at the moment in two different places. Can you briefly describe each of your positions and how you balance them?
Sure, definitely. So right now, whenever my friends ask me what I'm doing and I'm telling them, the answer, the expression would be, "Are you crazy?" So let me give you a brief introduction of what I've been working on. So right now, this semester, so I graduated from Berkeley in May in 2017, so not too long ago. So I'm staying at Berkeley 1 year, and I'm working as a lecturer. So I'm teaching 2 courses this year. Okay. And at the same time, I'm a postdoc researcher. So I'm conducting a research project with the Department of Transportation, and through that project, I'm mentoring 2 graduate students to do the project. And recently, I started working at Thornton Tomasetti in San Francisco as a senior engineer in the forensics department. So for this role, what I'm doing is I'm performing engineering analysis to investigate the collapse and the defects of buildings, and just trying to find out what happens, what went wrong, and who's responsible for the problems. So I think it's really exciting. To me, juggling between different commitments is definitely challenging, but I'm trying to gradually getting more used to it and try to manage my time efficiently. And I think I'm getting the hang of it. But to me, I think it's really important to prioritize my tasks. So I try to make a list of what I need to do and the deadlines, and make sure to categorize them in terms of urgency. So like something I need to do it right away, something I need to, they're urgent, but they have deadlines, so I can plan accordingly. And some other things can wait. So making sure that I'm on top of things is important. And but at the same, I think the most important thing is to make sure that I maintain a healthy life, because working endlessly is not very good. And I have to make sure that I have a social life. I spend time with my loved ones, and spend time with my students, my coworkers outside of work is important as well. So balancing between work and social life is important.
Sure. So how much time do you actually spend across all 3 roles?
Sure. So at the moment, so Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, I'm going to San Francisco. So from where I live, so right now I'm living in Berkeley. So 3 days a week I go to San Francisco. It takes an hour to get to work each day. So Tuesday and Thursdays I have lectures. So I have two lectures a week, and I have office hours on Tuesday and Thursdays as well. And I try to schedule research meetings and all the research related commitments on Tuesday and Thursdays. So I try to separate the two. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for work in San Francisco. Tuesday, Thursdays for my commitments at school. And weekends is the time for me to recharge my battery and also catch up with all the things that have been left off during the week.
Oh, well, to be honest, I'm pretty glad to hear that you don't have to spend your weekends as well working on all this. I mean, that's 3 roles, but if you balance it that way, then that sounds perfect. Can you, going to the roles itself, can you describe a little bit about, let's start with Thornton Tomasetti. Can you describe the company?
Sure. So it's really interesting how I got to know Thornton Tomasetti, and I get this position. So so when I was a graduate student in Berkeley, I had a great opportunity to be a teaching assistant for 8 semesters. So I think I broke the department record for being a TA for that long. But I loved it. And one great thing about being a TA is that I get to connect with the students. So I got to know about the firm through some former students, and they kept telling me all the great things about the company and how what exciting work they've been working on. So I talked to my advisor, some professors in my department, and they connected me to the people in the company. And so I talked to them. They took me around the office, took me to lunch, and it was natural that way. They showed me what they were working on, and instantly I got interested in what they've been working on. So I think it's interesting because a long time ago I have always been fascinated about forensics. So basically, forensics is trying to investigate when things go wrong, and it's specifically related to buildings. So when a bridge collapses, we go and we look at the evidences and we try to perform analysis, try to simulate what happened, and try to capture the reality. So that's what I've been working on. And the forensics projects are usually confidential, and that makes it really interesting. It has that interesting feeling about it as well. So right now, I like it because I'm wearing different hats when I work in this role. So I can be an engineer, I can be a detective. At the same time, I can be a lawyer because I have to know about all the laws and all the things that the lawyer needs to know when working on the cases like that.
That sounds really cool, actually, but also I suppose a bit daunting and a bit scary sometimes because you have so much responsibility. Isn't there?
Yeah, because it's the field is a little bit new to me as well because I don't know much about it. I might know about engineering, but like lawsuits, I'm not really familiar with that. So it's like a learning process along the way, and the learning curve might be steep at first, but I think it's going to be worth it. And so far, I'm really enjoying the experience. Everyone is really supportive, and people help me, and I'm willing to learn. So it's great.
Okay, awesome. Well then, how about UC Berkeley? Can you tell us a little bit about all the different workplace?
Sure. So as I mentioned, after I graduated last year, I'm staying at Berkeley one more year to do a postdoc and a lecturer. So the way I get the lecture position is kind of interesting as well. Usually, those 2 classes that I'm teaching are usually taught by my advisor. So because of personal reasons, my advisor is taking a sabbatical leave this year, and he asked me if I could stay one more year to help him teach those classes. Those 2 classes I think are relatively challenging. So even though I got a chance to be a TA for those 2 classes the last 4 years when I was a graduate student, but right now, like when I transitioned to this role as an instructor, it's really different because I have to take care of different responsibilities as well. Like have to give exams, have to grade exams, have to assign grades, to prepare homework. So it's great. It's challenging at the same time. So I'm teaching 2 courses, one last semester. So the course I taught last semester was offered to both senior undergrads and graduate students. And I had 105 students in my class. I think I've never seen a class that big in my department. And this semester, I'm teaching a follow-up class, mostly for graduate students. With 70 students in the class, and I'm really enjoying the experience. It was definitely a learning curve as well, but I'm really enjoying the experience. I love teaching, and it feels great. I know that you have some teaching experience as well, so probably you understand exactly what I'm talking about. But the feeling when you help the students understand the concept, and you see the spark in their eyes when they understand finally, it feels awesome, and I can never forget that feeling. And I think I will carry that passion through the rest of my life, even if I'm an engineer, or if someday I'll be in academia. I'm not sure, but I love teaching. I think that's my passion.
That's really cool. And no, I do have to agree. Like with teaching, it's very different when you really put your mind into it and you see your students change as you connect with them. And
Yeah,
it's very
absolutely. I
impressive.
love to make an impact on the students' career development and personal
Exactly.
growth as well.
And
So I
your
had
advisor,
last semester.
yeah, and your
Yeah,
advisor
so
must really trust you and believe in you to give you the role.
well, I hope so. I'm always trying to do my best. So I hope that the students appreciate my effort, and the department appreciates how much effort that I've been putting in my position as well.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. Can you tell us a little bit more about UC Berkeley as like a place of study in general, just more like broadly? Because I'm sure a lot of people would be interested in knowing about the actual campus itself, or like the environment itself, the study environment itself.
Okay.
How was it like to actually study there?
So first, let me a little like generalize my answer a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about my undergraduate institution and
yes, of course.
Berkeley, and then because I think it's important that I have been exposed to both environments. They're very different. So my undergraduate school, University of the Pacific, is a small private school in Northern California. It's a relatively small school, so everyone really gets to know each other very well. I know my professors by name. They know me very well. I know everyone on campus because when I walk on campus, pretty much I see everyone I know. So it feels like a family, and I think it's great for undergraduate experience. So when I went to Berkeley, it's a little bit different. It's a much bigger school. It's a public school, it's research oriented. So there are a lot of resources that you can take advantage of for your studies.
Okay.
At Berkeley, I got to meet worldwide experts in my field and also some other fields too, as well. So whenever you need something, you can find anyone that you can ask. You can talk to your colleagues. You can talk to your professors. No matter what you do, you will find the answer in one way or the other. The campus is much bigger at Berkeley. So I heard there are maybe like 41 libraries. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on that. But there are quite a lot of libraries. So you can go there to find the resources you need for your research or for your classes. There are a lot of places you can go to study. So if you're tired of your desk at home, you can always find a place on campus that you can work. And the people here are great. You see a lot of people from different countries, so you don't feel you're out of place because people understand you. And it's great that you can see different perspectives from everyone around the world. So because maybe one day you will end up in different countries that you never thought you would be. So yeah, I think both are great. Both have different give me a different perspectives, and I treasure both experience.
That's great to hear. Like I myself, I'm thinking of going to the United States to study, perhaps. And I was actually looking at UC Berkeley, and it's actually really, really great to hear that there's not only just a lot of resources available at UC Berkeley, but also the diversity is there as well. Like I understand as well, not just for me, but for a lot of, I suppose, foreigners to the US, it's really hard to immerse yourself in a culture if there's not enough diversity. But this really means that, regardless of where you're from in the world, UC Berkeley is a really good place to head to, at least in terms of the diversity and obviously the resources as well. So from the very start, that sounds like it's really, really great.
Yeah, absolutely. UC Berkeley or California or like the US in general, there are a lot of diversity, especially California. There are a lot of diversity. So people are very understanding, and people are willing to be a little bit slower to listen to your opinions and your perspectives. So I think it's a healthy environment.
That's great
at
to
Berkeley
hear.
and other universities here, especially in California. I'm more familiar with the schools in California, so I'm gonna speak from my experience.
No. That's great to hear. So you have it, folks. If you're looking for a place to go to, California is your place to go to.
Sure, yeah. So I've been in California since 2008. So after high school, I went to the U.S. and I've been in California until now. And I plan to be in California for a while.
On that topic, because it seems like every workplace, every university that you've been to has been in California. Is there a specific reason why? Did you actually look? Not did you, but have you looked at other schools? And oops, sorry, the lights turn off where I am. But have you looked at other universities at all, or were you dead set on UC Berkeley when you graduated from the University of the Pacific?
Yeah. So first of all, when I was in Vietnam and I wanted to go to the U.S., I didn't have anywhere in mind. It was a coincidence that, and I think this was fate as well, that I met some representatives from University of the Pacific in Vietnam. So they told me about the school, the department, the engineering program. So that brought me to California. And then after 4 years at Pacific, I applied to different schools for my graduate studies. So I looked at schools in California and in other states as well, and also overseas. But in the end, I decided to go to Berkeley because number one, we have a very good civil engineering program in the U.S. and in the world. And the second reason is that it's the closest to my graduate school, so I got the best of both worlds.
Okay, I see. No, that's perfect. That's definitely a good reason to stay. Talking about the University of the Pacific, you graduated summa cum laude, right? So firstly, congratulations, I suppose.
Oh, thank you.
And secondly, can you tell us a bit more about how you managed to do so well? Was that just a lot of studying, or was there a method that you employed, perhaps?
Yeah, so I think everyone has a different learning styles, and different people can be successful with different methods. So for me, I believe studying all the time is not the way to go. I used to think that way, but then as soon as I realized that I need a balance in my life to be successful. I designated some time to study, and when I study, I focus really well. And I try to do very well when I study, but when I take a break, I make sure I don't think about work when I have my own time. And also, so make sure to prioritize your tasks very well. And also, the second suggestion I would make is to take advantage of all the resources that are available to you. So don't just study on your own and suffer on your own. Reach out for help. Talk to your friends, talk to your professors, and at school in the U.S. and I'm sure in everywhere in the world as well. There are centers for students for example, if you are an international student and you need help with writing, there will be a writing center on campus that will help you to improve your writing, and so on. But the bottom line is that reach out for help. Don't just focus on your corner in your room. It's not very healthy. Yeah, so balance your life, prioritize your tasks, and reach out for help and take advantage of all the resources you can get.
Awesome. I mean, I totally agree with that. Like, I think you can really progress so far by yourself. You always there's always someone there ready to help. I mean, if you're at UC Berkeley right now, don't forget that Tang is there, so you can always reach out to him for help as well.
Absolutely. If you are in the U.S., especially California, US, yeah, or like Northern California, then make sure to reach out to me. I've been here for 10 years. I don't want to say that I know everything, but at least I know certain things that can help you to make your experience much more meaningful.
Well, you did graduate summa cum laude, so I'm sure you know quite a lot. But on that note, though, I just want to remind our viewers that if you have any questions at all, feel free to comment them on the video, and we will go through the questions towards the end of the video. Cool. All right. Just wanted to remind everyone of that.
Yeah, feel free to ask me any questions.
So we went through where you did your undergrad and your current positions. Can you tell us also a bit more about the other roles that you had taken on in between your in between the undergrad studies and now?
Okay, so when I was an undergrad, I was a tutor in the School of Engineering at Pacific for maybe 3 years, and I was also a student advisor. So basically, what a student advisor does is to help organizing the orientation for first year students. So when they first come to campus, we show them the resources on campus, different buildings. We tell them about the program, how to sign up for classes, and so on, how to be successful in college. And we also have a group of first year students that I mentor throughout throughout their first year. So if they have any question about their classes, they can come to me, and so I try to schedule meetings with them. So I work just like a bridge between the students and the professors. I also organize workshops and seminars for them. So how to be successful in college, how to manage your time, how to manage stress. So all those, I think, very interesting and very helpful to students. So I did that, and I was also involved in intramural sports. That's like something different from studying. So I was playing soccer intramural for maybe 2 or 3 years, and it helped me a lot to release stress and to maintain a balance in my life. I think it's important, and I was also involved in student organizations as well.
Okay.
So I was involved in a student group called American Society of Civil Engineers, and we had a student competition. We form a team and we compete with other schools in the region and nationally. So those experiences, I think, is very important. I think you shouldn't just focus on your classes, but you should have to focus on your life beyond classes as well. I think it's very meaningful.
I agree.
When I came to Berkeley, then mostly I focused on research. So I was doing research on my own, but also I was mentoring other undergrad and graduate students' research. And I think it really nurtures the passion for teaching in me, and I would love to carry on the rest of my career.
That's great. So there we have it, folks. Remember that when you study at a university, that's not just a place for you to just work, but it's also a place to nurture yourself and your career and your future as well. Consider where you want to go in the future, and just try everything there. Don't think that societies and clubs are just extras. They actually are very important to build up who you are. And I think Tang would agree with me that all that will also contribute to how well you succeed in the future, in your careers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think right now the world is interconnected, and you don't just go to school for one discipline, but it's interdisciplinary. So for example, if you go to work in your future, you don't just work alone on your own, but oftentimes you have to work in teams, and the ability to collaborate and work with other people in your background and outside your background is very important. And I recommend you to reach out and really try to immerse yourself in the environment that you collaborate with people, and not just professional events. Maybe social events can be helpful. Maybe you will meet someone that will be your professional partners in the future. Who knows?
Yeah. So talking about research, you also did research at a few other places, did you? I think there was the U.S. National Berkeley Laboratory, the Pacific Earthquake Engineering Research Center, and the California Department of Transportation. Can you tell us a little bit more about each of those places?
Okay, so I think I was very fortunate to be able to be involved in quite a few research institutions. So for the collaboration with the Berkeley Lab, It was through the introduction of my advisor. So my advisor told me one day that there was one project that they were studying, they were investigating the behavior of reinforced concrete structures under earthquake for nuclear facilities, and they need this kind of computer model to do the analysis. And because I was involved for my research, I started off with that expertise. So that's how I got involved in this project. And so I helped them develop some computer models to analyze the structures and the behavior of structure under earthquake. And I think it's really interesting experience because I got to talk to different scientists in different fields. So because I focus on civil engineering, but I have to also work with people in geology and some other fields as well. So I think it's really mind opening for me because I need to practice to be able to work in teams more efficiently, be more productive. And also I learned a lot to how to convey my ideas to people in my field, but also to people in different fields that are not very familiar with what I do. So I think it's very meaningful to me. So that's for the Berkeley lab. I also work with the Pacific Earthquake Engineering Research Center and Department of Transportation in California. Those are more related to my research project right now.
Okay.
As when I do a postdoc, so I'm mentoring two students to work on that project. It's a 1-year project, so in the next 2 months I will be very busy, try to wrap up the projects, write the reports, and hopefully it will be will produce something that are meaningful and helpful to engineers.
Wow, sounds like everything came to you quite not exactly easily, I suppose. That's not the right term for it, but in succession and quite readily as well. I suppose that has to do a lot with like how much effort you put in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a combination of different factors. It sounds like everything is so smooth, but not really. There are a lot of struggling along the way because to me, research is a combination of excitement and frustration. If you don't feel frustrated, you're not doing research right. And I think that's really important when someone like you or other people get into research, because you have to prepare mentally that you will face some frustration along the way. So for me, because I work a lot with computer models for buildings, so sometimes the code doesn't work, and I have to figure out, and I have to read the code, the hundreds of lines of codes repeatedly, and then I found out maybe I was missing a comma. It happens all the time, so you have to be prepared mentally, and you have to learn to be patient.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
But in short, it's not all smooth and all nice, but you have to struggle, and you have to be out of yourself, out of your comfort zone, because to be able to be involved in those collaborative efforts that I mentioned, it will be good to reach out to different people, because if you only work on your own, people will not know what you're working on, or what your passion is about. So if you share with them your passion, you will find out that they have the same passion as you, and they're working on the same project. So it opens the door for collaborations. So make sure to reach out to people.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I mean, as a PhD student myself, I mean, I'm slightly slower than you are. And that's why you're so impressive. I mean, we're the same age and you're already a lecturer as well. So that's very amazing. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Sometimes I just want to throw my laptop into the river and be done with it. But other times it's just so amazing, like the research you're doing, you're at the frontier of knowledge, and you get to do things that no other people have done before. And I think that's what keeps on driving. That's what can keep on driving, like someone like you or I, driving us along. But
yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. So like when you do research and you get into those times that you are very, very frustrated and you're not sure, like if you're banging your head against the wall or not. it is important to keep reminding yourself why you started off this journey. So before you start something, make sure that you know the big picture and the outcome, some expectations that you set for yourself. So when you struggle along the way, make sure that you keep telling yourself that it's normal to struggle. The end goal is still in front of you, and you should try your best to strive for it. Never give up.
Never give up.
I keep.
No, that I agree. That's something that you always have to think about. But I mean, I suppose because someone did ask a question, and I suppose it's only it makes sense to ask this of you now. But have you always been a top student ever since like primary school or middle school, or like during school prior to going overseas? And I mean, this is something that you already answered, but yeah, have you ever felt demotivated, lost, or uncertain of what you want to do in life? I think this is actually a bit more important. Like, I know that you have said that you will feel demotivated or frustrated sometimes, but yeah, have you ever actually felt like so frustrated, so, I guess, so demotivated that you just wanted to do something entirely different, just change it all? And how did you get back on track afterwards?
Well, for me, there were times that I feel really depressed. Not like that much. This sounds very bad, but there are times that I have doubts for myself that am I doing it right? Am I on the right direction? Am I making the right decision for my career? But then I realize when I think about what I've been through and what I have done, I feel like that I've done so much. I've been so far that giving up at this point is not the right decision. And I feel that in every situation there must be a way to resolve the conflicts. So to me, during the research work, there have been times that I was very not sure of if I could finish the research or not. But then I keep telling myself that I shouldn't give up because I've done so much, and it's just another obstacle I need to overcome. And of course, in life there are different factors that affect you and how productive you are. Not just classes, but also personal life as well. And also, there have been times that it was really difficult for me to really balance between work and life and social life. But through those experiences, I feel I have become stronger and have grown a lot. And I think I'm fortunate that I've experienced those unpleasant experiences and become better. But one thing I want to emphasize here is that sometimes when you set your goals, it's not like you have to stick to that goal all the time. Sometimes you have to deviate from your original goal. So my suggestion is that be flexible. Try hard to achieve what you set, the goals that you set, but also be flexible, because oftentimes you will end up finding yourself in a much better position, but different than what you said before.
Okay, thank you for that. That's actually really inspiring. I mean, I've always had times of that as well, but I think your approach is something that would really make sense for a lot of us. Like just thinking over and over again of how far we have progressed, and of course, like I suppose, just reminding ourselves of the reason why we started doing whatever we did in the first place, regardless of what position we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Like whenever I face some obstacles, I always think about my past experience, like the other challenges that I have overcome in the past. And I think maybe this one is just another obstacle. Like when in the past when you were a kid, you play video games, you have different levels. This is just another level you have to overcome.
So maybe playing video games is a good idea.
Well, but again, make sure to prioritize tasks accordingly.
Of course. So there's actually one thing that I suppose I should have asked you from the beginning. I do apologize, I should have asked, but civil engineering then? Because I did imagine
All
it
right,
quite a
right.
bit differently, but
Sure,
basically
sure.
because
Yeah.
what, yeah, so what I guess what the field that you're in is under the umbrella of civil engineering, but
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like you're doing a lot more than civil engineering. Is this quite expected of any civil engineer in the US, or are you a bit outside of the norm? Or
Okay, so very good question. Thanks for asking that. So first of all, to give you a background of what civil engineers are, civil engineering is, let me give you a quick introduction. So basically, civil engineering um, involves with the design and the maintenance of a safe built environments. So buildings, bridges, roads, water system, soil, city planning. So it involves a lot of different fields, subfields within that umbrella. So I think so. If you go out and you look around you, you probably see something that involves the work of a civil engineer. So I think
okay,
civil engineering is a challenging field with great rewards. So you get to design and build like something that will become icon. So I think it's a very challenging and but it's very satisfying profession. So for me, I focus on structural engineering. So structural engineering is analysis of structures and how and design the structure so that it can resist the load. So for example, if you have a building and you have some wind flowing through the building and you have earthquakes shaking the structure, so structural engineers would come up with some system to be able to resist those external effects. So I focus on that, but also I focus on the computer implementation of the methods to analyze the building. So my research work is more computational. So I work mostly with computers and I write algorithms and codes to analyze the structures. Now, as a senior engineer at Thornton Tomasetti, I do both analysis and also do look into how engineers design the buildings. Is because oftentimes you don't just look at the conventional building, just like a box, but sometimes the structure is more irregular. So you
mm-hmm.
can look at some tower, you can look at some airport that are more complicated. So people have to come up with different ways to analyze and design the structure. So we have to see whether those methods are reasonable or not. So for my work, it's under structural engineering, which is a subfield under the civil engineering umbrella. But oftentimes I find myself collaborating with people in different field because I think not just civil engineering and not just my work, but I think nowadays we always have to collaborate with people in different fields. So back to my advice I mentioned earlier. Make sure don't just focus on your comfort zone, but reach out to people in different background because it's important for you, not just for your social network, but also for your career in the future.
Yeah, I mean, again, I agree. That's a great advice. I think, regardless of what field you're in, it applies to any field. Nowadays, everything is multidisciplinary rather than being unidisciplinary. You really, if you want to progress far and have impact in your research or whatever you do, it's important to be able to understand, at least understand what other people from other field do, so that when
Mm-hmm.
it's time to connect to each other, you're able to do it with ease rather than struggling and having everything disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Also related to my field and how to select a field that you're passionate about. So the way I pick civil engineering is quite interesting. I got motivated because of some events that I heard on the news.
Mm-hmm.
Heard a lot of like buildings being collapsed
Oh, okay.
due to natural disasters like flood, earthquakes, or like construction failure. So that got me really inspired to pursue this field. And now, if I had to choose again, probably I would still pick civil engineering. For you, for anyone watching the talk right now, if you are in the stage of your life that you have to select a field, then make sure you do some research on your own, like what the field's about, what they do, what the outcome would be, and what are the career options that you have after you finish your studies. Because I think it's important. So maybe you can just go on YouTube and type what is blah blah blah. Then there will be like a lot of videos that show you like a quick introduction of the field, and I think it's important. Don't just pick something blindly because of some influence from your family or your friends. Just you have to pick something that you really like to do. Don't force yourself to do something that you're not passionate about. But at the same time, if you happen to pick the wrong field after 1 or 2 years, it's okay. It's never too late to change and to pursue what you're really passionate about.
Thank you. That was another great piece of advice. I mean, again, I agree with that. It's important to have passion. And thank you very much for for introducing the field of civil engineering to us today and briefly describing all of your positions and the places of work and your roles and everything.
Absolutely.
That really opens up. I mean, I hope that our viewers have learned a lot more about it, a lot more about the US and civil engineering in the US through this talk. There are a few questions, so I'll go through them in turn.
Sure. Okay.
I think this might be one of your friends, perhaps.
Okay.
She did say, her name is Shan Wang.
She's my classmate.
Oh, right. Yeah, she did say that
Hi, Shan.
She did say that you're their star student, and she did ask,
thank you.
what would you miss most if you leave Berkeley? I mean, like assuming if you do leave Berkeley, ever.
Yeah. So if I have to leave Berkeley, I would miss my department. So even though my building is called Davis Hall, and it's not the most beautiful building ever on campus, but so my office doesn't have windows, and I always complain about it. But when I think I have to leave Berkeley, I will miss my office a lot. I will also miss the people in Berkeley, all the places that I've been to when I was struggling, writing my dissertation day and night. I will definitely miss the people, and I will miss all the memories, the sweet memories I have. Not just sweet memories, bitter memories as well. So they all together make up a phase in my life that's I will never forget. But those memories I'll bring with me to the rest of my life.
Awesome. Yeah, I suppose that is true. If once you're committed to a place and you really feel connected to it, regardless of how, I'm not saying your place is, but regardless of how shabby or broken down any place of work is, if it's some place that you have grown with, then you'll miss everything about it, even the gruesome details, won't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So there's another question, and this is actually one of my questions as well, something that I am wondering about, because everybody has been saying this to me as well, and I really wanted to know the truth from someone who has been through the position. So doing research, especially in like say a top university or lab in the US, like UC Berkeley, are the working hours very long and the pay not very good? This is specifically, I suppose, in terms of like postdoctoral research, but also just research in general.
Oh, sorry. Can you? You're asking about the working hours?
Yeah, working hours and pay of like a research position, specifically postdoc, but more broadly as well.
Sure. Okay. So first, I want to address the work hours. I think for research, it's very flexible. So you can because like from my experience, because I work mostly on my computer, so I can just work wherever I want and whenever I want. As long as I get the work done, then it's good enough. Of course, I have to spend some time, and set the schedule for meetings. But when I do research on my own, that's very flexible, and it's very different from between academia and the industry. I think in academia it's more flexible in terms of time.
Okay.
And both have pros and cons, but in terms of flexibility, I think academia wins in this category. that's for work hours. Regarding the pay, for at Berkeley, we have different pay scale. Depending on your experience, depending on how long you have been in that position, there are different levels that you get. So for me, for example, this is my first year as a postdoc researcher, so I'm like postdoc level 1, so the beginning level. So if I stay at Berkeley to do a postdoc much longer, then depending on my on how long I've been working here, then I would advance to different levels. And I think it also depends on the performance as well, but I'm not too sure. I have to double check on that. But not just Berkeley, but I feel like other academic institutions or the industry, it also depends on how long you've been working, your experience and your performance. So everything have to be taken into account. And you can find those information maybe online on the school website, like work hours and the pay, especially public school, like those information should be available.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. That's very interesting. That's actually quite a bit different from what I've heard. So, because yeah, I always heard that the work hours should. Sorry, let's turn off again. There we go. So, yeah, I always heard that the work hours are very long. Like as a postdoc researcher, for example, you're expected to work 50, 60 hours, at least at a top school, so including UC Berkeley. But I suppose from what you say, it's not exactly the case, or at least it's more flexible.
Well, I think it varies from research group to research group, and it also varies from field to field as well. For me, it is. I say it's flexible. It doesn't mean that I work less than 50 hours a week when I was a PhD student. But I mean, it's more flexible in the way that I don't have to be in the office from like 8 to 6. And then when I go home, then I just don't worry about research at all. I think it depends on your preference. Like for me, when I was a student, now it's a different story because I have to juggle between different commitments. But when I was a PhD student, then I usually work a little bit, take some small break, and then when my mind is refreshed, I go back to work. And sometimes I can work till very late. But I don't have to be in my office. I can be anywhere because of the nature of my research.
Cool.
So it varies. So you have to be specific about your field.
Yeah.
When you talk to people in different fields, that might be different.
I suppose one of the best ways to do it is if you want to make sure about it, you should always check with the specific lab prior to actually accepting any positions.
Absolutely. That would be the closest answer you would get from reality.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure like it's not always crystal clear, and sometimes you might have to work more hours than others, but that's quite natural, I suppose. But I guess that's, I mean, that's really good news to me, though, that, you know, it still varies depending on who you work for and where you work, because
and also it depends on the time of the year as well. Sometimes like before some deadlines, you have to be there, maybe not just 50 hours a week, but maybe 80 hours a week. But sometimes right after your deadline, maybe you can have some more free time.
Okay.
So it depends.
Yeah. So no, that's I think I agree with that. And the next question is this is just out of curiosity. I'm just trying to rephrase it so that it makes a bit more sense. But so there has been quite a lot of Nobel laureates from UC Berkeley. Have you been inspired by them, or have you actually met any of them?
I haven't met any of them, unfortunately, but I know that, for sure, that inspires me a lot, because being in a place that has so much history and so much legacy like this really inspires me to do better, to live up to that legacy. At the same time, sometimes when I was walking on campus, you know, there in Berkeley, there are some parking lots designated only for Nobel laureates. So when I see that, it's really inspiring, and I keep telling myself that I have to do better. Maybe not to the level that I get the Nobel Prize, but up to my potential.
Yeah.
So it's definitely inspiring.
Of course, that's all we can hope for, right? So long as we achieve our potential, then we have succeeded in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so next question. Just curious, how many hours do you sleep each day?
Well, it varies again, but in general, I'm not the type of person that studies all the time and doesn't sleep. To me, I usually get on average maybe 6 hours of sleep.
6 hours. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's very good for a postdoc. But I think it depends. Sometimes I get less sleep. Sometimes I get more sleep on the weekends. So usually weekends is when I try to catch up on sleep. By suggestion again, it also depends on your preference and how much sleep you need to be productive. But don't work too hard to a point that you don't sleep enough and you get sick. Then there'll be really bad consequences.
Sure, of course. Um, I mean, I myself have to sleep for 8 hours a day, I think, on average. So hearing 6 hours is a bit frightening to me, but I mean, of course, you achieve a lot more with less sleep, I suppose, and also.
No, I wish I had more sleep, and maybe I should try to be even more efficient with my time to maximize the amount of number of hours of sleep I can get. But I feel like there's still room for improvement.
Well, I mean, then again, you are balancing three different roles at the same time, so I think that's already like heaps of well-balanced timing on your part, scheduling, sorry, on your part. Yeah. So the next question is, oh, this is an interesting one. So you have achieved a lot throughout your life. You've graduated summa cum laude and done research in heaps of places, and you've progressed in many different fields, not fields, sorry, in many different roles. This question is, how about failures? Can you talk about one of the failures that you had and how you got back up? Like, I suppose like a more serious failure in your life. Is there any that you can think of? Whether it's when you were very young or now or like more recently.
Sure. Yeah. So definitely there have been failures, and as I mentioned earlier in my talk, um, it sounds like I have achieved a lot and everything's so smooth, but not really. Throughout the way, there are a lot of challenges that I have to overcome, and a lot of time. Maybe I didn't overcome it completely. So there were times that I had to face failure. I had to accept it, but I'm not. I'm probably it's not very appropriate for me to go through the details of each one, but in general, like one big category that covers a lot of instances is not to live up with expectations. So another set of advice from me is that it's good to set expectations, but be flexible, as I mentioned earlier. And if you don't meet the expectation, it's okay. You just try your best. But definitely there have been a lot of times that I had to face failure. But I'm very grateful that I had those experiences so that I can bounce back up and learn from my failure.
How
so
did
either
you...
from research, from work, from personal life, or anything. Like you cannot succeed all the time. I remember someone. I was reading somewhere. If you don't face challenges or obstacles or failure, you're not doing it right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like there's always that saying, right? Failure is the mother of all success.
Exactly. Yeah. I live by that.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you got a lot more successes than failures, so that's always good, or at least it's perceived that way. So I mean,
it's easy to when you look at someone and when you see success, but it's more I think it's more valuable to focus on the failure and see how we overcome the failure and what we learn from that experiences.
So sorry, I was just want to ask, with the overcoming failure, like would you say for yourself, is it your own strength of will, or was it through like the friends and family or professional help or whatever that really helped you to get back up from your
Sure.
failures? For you
Yeah,
specifically,
so
anyways.
it's a combination of both. If I would say both because if I don't try hard on my own, that I would not be able to overcome the failure. And if I don't get support and help from my family, my friends, my loved ones, then I wouldn't be able to do that either. So it's a combination of both. You have to be strong, and you have to be able to listen, and
Mhm.
and you will get there.
I think actually one of the things that you said is very important, being able to listen, especially when you fail. I think
Yeah.
that's actually really important. I always find that one of the problems is that when someone struggles and they don't listen to others as to why they're struggling,
hmm
the mistake gets repeated over and over and over again, and
hmm
until they finally learn the hard way that
Yeah.
they could have gotten over it a lot more easily.
hmm Absolutely. Yeah,
Hmm.
you have to be able to listen, especially to ideas that you don't like
Hmm.
to hear.
That's the
Some
hardest
listen to
part.
unpleasant advices. I think it's more very valuable.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so I think this would be the last question. Have you published in a lot of journals,
So
or
a
have you
lot
published a
is
lot
not.
of articles
Mhm.
in general?
So not too many. So I've been publishing a few, but it's still because I'm still working on that. So it's still on my to-do list that I haven't got a chance to get to. So basically, from my dissertation, I'm writing some draft with my advisor, and hopefully we'll get them published very soon.
Okay. How many?
And it's a part of PhD life and life of researcher, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah. How many papers would you say you have and will get out of your PhD in total?
So just on my PhD thesis alone,
That's
I'm
just a
not
PhD.
counting the other work, but just on my thesis alone, I got one published from in the first chapter, and I
Hmm.
have a few more chapters to work on. So
Okay.
more is coming.
Fingers crossed, right?
hmm
Yeah. That's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't expect, that when you do research, your actual research might complete way before your paper actually will. So it might be a month up to years until your research would have
hmm
impact. But it will
Yeah,
have impact
absolutely.
and you just have to work at it.
Yeah, always keep your motivation and always believe that you are doing something that are meaningful and helpful to the field. So that I think it really helps me, especially to 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 overcome the challenges that I face along the way when I was doing the research.
Mhm.
And then sometimes when I had doubt that I wasn't sure if I'm doing the right thing, then
Mhm.
thinking about the outcome, that would really definitely be very inspiring.
Awesome. All right. Well, let us know when you do publish your next paper. We'll post it on Knowledge for Free for sure, so that
Okay,
everybody can
awesome.
read it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the talk today. We've covered everything and the QA as well. Thank you for all of our viewers for watching. I do have to apologize for the technical issue causing a delay. Perhaps that's also why a lot of our viewers couldn't join us today. But of course, this video will be available. So yeah, I do hope to see everyone in the next episode. Before we go, of course, Dr. Thanh Do, do you have a quote or slogan or just one phrase that you want to leave for everyone before you go?
Yeah, so I made the cheat sheet of the quotes that I like. So let me pick out one. Let me see where I put those. Okay, so this is probably like some quotes that I've seen somewhere, but I don't remember exactly. And I always tell my students in my class this. So always tries to be better, but not compared to your siblings or your neighbors or your classmates, not someone you see or hear on the news, on social media. It is important that you try to be a better version of yourself. It's important. So everyone has a different story. Everyone has a different timeline. Don't compare yourself to others. Just focus on yourself, and things are not gonna get easier, but you will become stronger.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That was a great quote to end the live stream with. All right. Well, thank you again, Dr. Thanh Do, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And hopefully I'll get to see all of you at some point in my life.
Yep. Thank you to our viewers, and good luck on your future endeavors. All right. That's the end of today.
Thank you. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
And everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.